by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
This deep cold is expected to take its toll on millions of Americans for at least another day. I'm Mark Liverman in New York with a look at some of the hardest hit areas.
And a 9-hour hostage standoff in an inner city bus finally ended in Butte. Coming up, how it happened and how the suspect surrendered.
Just ahead of 6:30 on this Thursday, Chet Lehman, Missy O'Malley with you. Matt has our local forecast in a moment, but right now talking weather. The freezing cold that's plagued much of the northern United States is going to stick around for at least one more day.
Already at least 9 deaths have been linked to the weather. CBS's Mark Liverman is in New York City, getting hit right now by those frigid temperatures.
It may look pretty, but the polar vortex is no picnic.
We made it about 2 blocks and then we huddled up in a gas station and Ubered back home.
The UCLA men's volleyball team in Chicago for a road trip couldn't handle the sub-zero temperatures.
We actually had to search the athletic department and actually borrowed what we had from the football team. We're just not usually prepared for this out in California.
More hardened northerners were able to enjoy the cold, turning boiling water into snow and freezing wet t-shirts.
We don't care. We're Minnesota and we're going to do whatever we got to do to have some fun.
The polar vortex is expected to last at least another day, and the deep cold is causing some serious problems for a lot of people in the Midwest and right here in the Northeast. In New Jersey, a massive blaze at a paper company was only made worse by the whipping winds.
Firefighters are dealing with water on their hands, on their face. I was out there, it's spraying all over you, and regardless if you have equipment on or not, it's impacting you, and the cold slows you down.
Firefighters in Indiana battled a house fire as wind chills reached -50. While blinding snow squalls caused pileups in Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts.
Well, you can't see anything. It's like giant cotton balls falling at your car.
For a second day, the U.S. Postal Service is canceling mail delivery in parts of the Midwest. Mark Liverman, CBS News, New York.
And before the cold begins to recede, Chicago is expecting to break the city's record low temperature of 27 below zero. Wow.
Now, speaking of minus 27, that's already a reality in Minnesota. Take a look at this. Here's proof. Bank sign in Minnetonka, Minnesota from last night. But hey, people who live there don't have to stand for that. Right? When you drive out of the bank parking lot, just point your vehicle southeast, drive down to Miami to see this right there. Currently 61, and it's 88 degrees warmer there. Balmy 61 though. I'm sure Miami residents will tell you that's downright chilly. They have their coats and sweaters on, they're wearing their boots and all that. Minnesota just says,
yeah, but their sunroofs are open.
That's exactly right. Yeah, 61 after all the windows up. That's terrible.
Yeah. Brr.
There you go. I love the United States. It's big and broad and varied and diverse, and I just think that's awesome.
I have a sister in the Twin Cities. She's a dentist. And every single appointment was canceled except for an 89-year-old woman that said I wasn't going to miss my appointment.
My brother's currently in Mesa, Arizona, sent me a picture of the thermometer yesterday. He's going, I'm sorry, it's too hot to sit outside. It was 82 degrees. He went inside, turned the air on, and had a beer.
Wow.
I will not repeat what I called him, but I thanked him for sending me the picture.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Oh,
That's
Matt
what I said.
joins us now. Boy, the rest of the country
balmy compared
really
to your
dealing
graphic
with it.
yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the temperatures in the Midwest. This is with the wind chill, frostbite times. We set this into motion. It's a slow progression, but we're seeing some progression as we head into your Thursday afternoon, and then by Friday. Yeah, that's nothing. It's 5-7 degrees. It's all right.
Heat wave.
For us, temperatures into the teens and 20s. It feels fantastic, especially compared to the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. Temperatures do top out near the 40-degree mark for the afternoon today. We do have some significant changes heading our direction. We'll talk more about that, of course, coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. 6:33. Back to our top local story this half hour. There was a 9.5-hour standoff in Butte on a passenger bus yesterday.
The man holding the hostages was finally arrested, and now he's in custody. MTN's John Amy, who was at the scene all day, explains how it all happened.
The standoff, which began as a hostage situation inside a bus at the Butte transfer station at about 12:30 this afternoon. The incident began on a Jefferson Lines bus that was traveling between Billings and Missoula. A man armed with a handgun ordered the bus to stop in Butte. The man then ordered everyone except for one passenger out of the bus. and the standoff began. Butte police report the man also claimed to have some kind of explosive device on the bus. Heavily armed police officers took defensive positions around the bus and called in the SWAT team. The suspect held the passenger hostage for about 3 hours until finally releasing him. When the hostage ran from the bus, police ordered him on the ground and searched him before removing him to safety. The suspect in the standoff briefly appeared in the door of the bus and took a plastic bag that was left for him by officers. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
As John mentioned, the suspect was taken into custody at about 9:30 last night. There were no injuries. We'll have more on this story updated for you tonight at noon, 5:30, and 10 tonight.
Another statewide story this morning. Family members of missing and murdered Native Americans were at the state capitol yesterday to push for a package of bills to help address the crisis.
MTN's Jonathan Imberian takes a closer look at some of those proposed legislation.
On Wednesday, people from around Montana gave emotional testimony about how they've been affected by what they call an epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous people, many of them women and children.
It's a crisis, and we're reaching out to you guys now, asking you guys for help.
Many of those in attendance wore red, a color that has come to symbolize missing and murdered Indigenous women. Representative Ray Peppers of Lame Deer is sponsoring 2 bills in a package of legislation designed to help resolve these cases.
And they're asking for our support as legislators to step up for them and look for justice.
One of the proposals is House Bill 21, known as Hannah's Act. It would create a missing persons specialist in the Montana Department of Justice to work closely with other agencies on missing persons cases. The bill is named after Hannah Harris, a Lame Deer woman found murdered in 2013 after being missing for 5 days. Her mother, Melinda Harris Limberhand, was among those testifying for the bill.
We need somebody to come in and help us out. I'm trying to do my part also by standing up and speaking for the people who have lost their loved ones.
Another bill, House Bill 54, would require law enforcement agencies to open a report without delay when someone is reported missing, and add those reports to a national crime database as soon as possible. Paula Castro Stopp's daughter, 14-year-old Henny Scott, was missing for 3 weeks before her body was found.
If these limitations are put in place, I believe my daughter would have been found alive.
After the hearing, more than 100 people gathered in the rotunda for a rally to highlight the issue of missing and murdered women. Family members then joined Governor Steve Bullock for a news conference. Those who came to testify say they'll do whatever they can to make sure this issue isn't forgotten.
We are the voice, and we will not be silenced anymore.
In Helena, Jonathan Imberian, MTN News.
Now, the committee also heard a bill that would allow tribal court convictions for domestic violence to be continued as prior offenses for sentencing purposes. They did not take immediate action on any of those proposals.
Update to a story we brought you earlier this week. Montana Rail Link still has cleanup crews on the scene of Tuesday's train derailment near Livingston. Happened around 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the Trail Creek exit. 39 cars went off the tracks, and Montana Rail Link says the cleanup could take through today. Rail company says it has environmental contractors on scene to monitor water quality in the local streams. Residents in the area can expect traffic delays. There were no injuries in this mishap. The investigation into the cause of that derailment also continuing.
And Governor Steve Bullock delivers his final State of the State address tonight at the state capitol.
MTN's Mike Dennison will be there and gives us a preview of what to expect.
Governor Bullock's final term in office ends next year, so 2019 is his final regular legislative session as governor, and thus his last opportunity to deliver a State of the State address to a joint session of the House and Senate. The speech gets underway at 7 p.m. in the House chamber. The Democratic governor writes some of the speech himself, but also relies on the help of and editing suggestions from his communications staff. Thursday's speech likely will catalog the highlights of Bullock's record, in his view, and make a pitch for key parts of his proposed state budget, such as continuing Medicaid expansion, creating a state-funded preschool program, freezing college tuition, and his ambitious plan for $290 million in state-funded infrastructure all across Montana. Bullock also may unveil a new proposal or two, but those details remain under wraps. House Democratic leader Casey Schreiner of Great Falls says it's a chance for the governor to speak directly to the people about his take on the progress of Montana.
It's good to every couple of years have a conversation with your governor to see how things are going and get a perspective on why things are the way they are and maybe some changes that need to come.
The governor's speech will be streamed live on MTN stations across the state. But Bullock isn't playing to a totally receptive audience in the building. Republicans control majorities in both houses of the legislature, and already GOP lawmakers have been busy working up counterproposals to the governor's big plans. Republican Senate President Scott Sales of Bozeman will be delivering the GOP's response to the governor's speech shortly after it's finished. I think we can count on hearing a somewhat different vision for Montana from leaders of the Republican majority. But first, we'll be here on the House floor hearing the vision of our Democratic governor one last time. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Now, MTN News will have full coverage of the governor's speech this evening.
It is time for a quick break. Coming up, Super Bowl Sunday right here on CBS. Take a look.
The Super Bowl is about the teams on the field, but Super Bowl week is about the fans. I'm Mo Lalengi in Atlanta with a look at the passion that fans are bringing to Super Bowl week.
Good morning. Ahead here on CBS This Morning, the changes you'll see when filing your 2018 tax return and whether the government shutdown will delay refunds. And before the Patriots and the Rams take each other on in the Super Bowl, Michelle Miller and Mo Rocca fight over whether the Los Angeles Rams or the Providence, Rhode Island, where the Patriots are from, is the true super city. See you at 7.